What's up? My name is PJ, and you are listening to the Music Photo Podcast, session number 8. Thank you so much for joining us again for another episode of the Music Photo Podcast. My name is PJ Pantelis. You can find me on Twitter at PJPantelis. Connect with me, say what's up. I'd love to hear from you. This week, we're going to be changing gears a little bit. We're going to be talking to a videographer. He's extremely talented and young. His name is Ed Reiss, and I've been following his work for quite some time. Ed has built his reputation largely just from doing music videos, and in terms of quality, I can vouch they're up there with the best in the business. A lot of the things that he has to say cross over really nicely into music photography, and I think it's a really interesting perspective because a lot of us as photo guys, we do dabble in the video side of things. Ed works closely with bands such as Hellions, Dream on Dreamer, Storm the Sky, and all of the best bands on a local level. You're going to want to stick around until the very end of this one as we discuss topics such as, but not limited to, troubleshooting on set, the triumphs and horror stories of a working music photographer, balancing expectations with budgets, and taking on the right jobs. If you're looking at getting into music videos and you think it might be something you're interested in, Ed even tells us the gear that he's using, what he's used in the past, and what he would get if he had to start again. As always, the show notes can be found at bigpantsphoto.com/podcast. Until then, enjoy this episode with Ed Reiss. Ed, how's it going, man?
Very well, and yourself?
I'm really, really well. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
All good, all good.
What have you been working on lately?
Recently, I've just been finishing up a clip that's been a long time in the making for Far West Battlefront. I actually filmed it last year and just finishing up now. We've sort of been pretty ambitious with it. Also working on a clip for local Melbourne band Sentinel.
Oh, yeah.
And later on this month, I'm doing 2 music videos for Hellions.
Fantastic.
Working on a short film in Broken Hill with one of the same DPs that did the Australian feature film Van Diemen's Land. So I'm
cool.
Pretty psyched to sort of be on my first proper short film set. Yeah,
I was actually going to ask about that lately. I'll leave it for later. But I'm excited to hear that your creative pursuits are outside of just music videos, because that's coming from the music scene. That's what I know you for, and that's what a lot of people know you for. But I'm sure you'll be able to flex your directing muscles and creative muscles a lot more in a short film.
It ends up being a lot different from doing music videos to then going on a proper film set. What I would do on a music video is very one-man army type deal, and when you're going to a short film or feature film set, everyone has their own set role.
Okay.
So it's been pretty hard for me to sort of transition into just doing the one thing. So on this short film, that I'm meant to be shooting next week, I'll just be a focus puller for the camera.
Okay.
So when I normally do sort of like the directing, filming, editing, it's very much out of my comfort zone just to not be able to say anything on set and just have that one role. It's quite different.
Right. Okay. So what sort of a crew do you work with on your sets?
I have one permanent crew member, Joe Ritson.
Yeah. And
he is just pretty much the exact opposite of what I am. I pretty much have no technical bone in my body.
Really?
I know how to film a subject and make it look pretty, but when it comes to any of the tech specs or anything like that, Joe is just a complete lifesaver for me. He knows pretty much I have the creative side and he has the tech side, and it just works perfect.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah.
So was it the last clip that you did Joe edit that one as well? Or one of the last clips you did?
One of the, Joe's edited for me let me think here. He edited the Storm the Sky live section of the DVD.
Oh, yeah.
All the stuff in the studio. And he also edited the clip for Left for Wolves.
Okay.
Otherwise, yeah, I have edited everything else otherwise.
What, in terms of editing, like, do you enjoy that, or is that just the hard work that comes along with shooting the video? Like, obviously to edit it, you have a whole lot of control over it as opposed to when someone else would do it. But is that something that you could maybe outsource more in future, or do you like to edit your own stuff?
I'm a little bit of a control freak, and I do like to shoot and edit. But in the future, I'd actually love to get other people involved in the creative element in both developing narratives and concepts, as well as directing and getting a proper gaffer for lighting on set.
Yeah.
They're things that in the long term I'd really like to look into. But a lot of the time it all comes down to the budget of a clip.
Okay.
And it's just really hard to pay people.
Yeah,
so
of course.
Apparently it's not really been possible, but it's definitely something in the future that I'm looking to get into.
If you were to start outsourcing more and maybe getting someone to edit, or I don't know, when you shoot, do you shoot with the one camera, or are there multiple angles going, or how does it work?
It's only been the one camera for all my current music videos.
Yep.
With Joe on board, we have been talking quite a bit with him being a B-cam operator. It just never come into effect.
Yeah.
He just bought the Sony A7S, and
cool.
It's for such a small camera, it is really, really, really good. It holds up extremely well, and in low light situations where my camera doesn't hold a match to it, it just delivers flawlessly. So, if it wasn't sort of the A7S that he's bought, another camera we've been talking about using as a B cam is the Blackmagic cinema camera, which is also a very, very good camera.
So let's talk about your gear for a moment, because I know recently you've made a pretty sizable investment.
Yep.
What have you got?
I just invested, I don't know how many months ago it is. Maybe like 7 or 8 months ago, I invested in the Red Epic M Dragon, and pretty much left me broke and living off noodles for a while. But I definitely don't regret it. It's been a really good investment for me. It's definitely opened up a lot of doors. As I was saying earlier, like working on this short film next week in Broken Hill, I would not have got that job if it wasn't for the camera. I got referenced that job because they needed to hire the camera, and they ended up hiring me as well because they checked out my work after knowing that I had the camera, and I got a part in doing a short film with them. So
that's really interesting.
It's had really great perks with sort of opening doors up.
So I was going to ask how, because what was it? The Red Epic? Is that the camera?
Yep.
So that's a deposit on a house, basically. How did you justify that? I didn't realize that. Are they sort of like not quite the standard yet? Are they still a bit of because you're hiring it out, are you?
I am hiring it out. I just actually sent it off a couple of hours ago on hire. Just a single day hire for $500. So like it's income in itself.
Yeah.
With me hiring it out. I'm sorry, what was the question again?
That's just like another justification, right? The fact that you can make some income from it, that's another sweetener to owning it.
Yeah. So it has the perks where I can rent it out and I can get myself onto sets that I wouldn't otherwise be possible to get onto. It's been a great investment for both making more money in hires and getting myself onto other film sets and meeting other people and networking. So
that's excellent, man. Because I've noticed a little bit. I've on the A7S, just for a minute, I've seen Tomo shoot with that a few times, and I've just been so wowed. It almost looks like a point and shoot. It's so small. Obviously with the Metabones or the adapter and the lenses, the shoulder rig and whatever, it starts to look professional. But it's just the body itself. Like, it's amazing that all that's packed into the tiny frame.
Yeah, just technology is advancing way too fast to keep up with, and being able to have something as small as that and as powerful, being able to shoot 100 frames per second with such a small body and be so inconspicuous, and have that availability in low light to shoot in moonlight and still get a usable shot with very minimal grain is just otherwise impossible even a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen those videos, and it's like some guy walking on the beach in broad daylight, but it's actually color corrected. It's actually filmed in the nighttime.
Yeah, and it's made to look like the afternoon.
Oh, it's
He's
mental.
like on the beach with a campfire, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it blows my mind. So I've noticed a bit of a divide forming in terms of gear in the photo video community, where a few years ago, myself included, every photo guy with the DSLR could take on these small video jobs, and I don't want to say compete because, I had no video knowledge whatsoever, but it was just way, way more accessible. For, $500, you could get a camera and a lens and be in the game. What are we moving towards? Is 1080p basically obsolete because of these high resolution cameras, or like, how long is it going to take for people's skills and hardware to catch up, or is it just going to keep dividing?
Honestly, 1080p is still extremely relevant. Basically, everything is just going to web, and that's pretty much it. You view something on YouTube. If it goes any further than that, really, it's just going to say TV, where TV still only really broadcasts at 720p. So 1080 is still very, very relevant. With my camera, I can shoot up to 6K, but I'm still downscaling to 1080p for web conversion.
Sure.
And I mean, it's pretty much overkill. I don't actually need it. It does make the image look better, but it's not really that necessary, really.
Yeah. So
it doesn't. It does help, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know, but I'm assuming that DSLRs or consumer grade cameras are going to be moving in that direction. But I don't understand how you can process something like that unless you have a purpose-built editing computer.
Yeah. You do need to have sort of a decent build computer to sort of be able to handle the files without it sort of collapsing on you in Premiere Pro or Final Cut or whatever your editing system choice is. I got a custom build PC right now that I got to make to build, and it's held up. It's like about 3 years old now, but it's still kicking. It's still sort of handling all the footage. I was actually very concerned when I bought the camera, because I only used it on one other shoot for editing before, how it would hold up with me shooting like large projects. I wanted to go and do a documentary and have 10 terabytes of footage that I'd have on my computer, and how it would go in the editing software.
Yeah.
But so far, it's been just as easy as any other camera, even a DSLR. The red files just hold up, and I just dropped the resolution a little bit in the program and plays that smoothly, perfectly, and I've had no issues so far. So, yeah, I've been loving the camera.
Have I seen on Facebook that you've been posting some stills from the red as well?
Yeah.
They look tremendous. They look like photos.
Yeah. Just because one video still from the camera is a pretty much raw image. Yeah. Like if you've taken a photo on the 5D, it's actually a higher resolution video than like a 5D will take.
Yeah.
So the only drawback there is you're shooting at 1/50th shutter, so you do get that motion blur.
Sure.
But if you have, and I'm taking a screenshot of a subject that hasn't moved that much,
Yeah.
it's a very sharp, clean image. So I could use these as just photo stills. And a lot of people actually do this. Like they use red images for magazine cover, like front covers. So
print media, yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So I'm also assuming, I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I'm assuming the sensor's a lot bigger in the red compared to a full frame DSLR.
Yeah, it is a lot bigger. This is where sort of Joe comes into the frame more than me, and he knows more sort of the geeky tech stuff.
Okay. I'm just trying to picture like a still from the red compared to a full frame SLR, and I'm seeing a lot more depth in the photos. Depth of field, I mean.
Not so much depth of field, but you're seeing more dynamic range.
Okay.
On the red, its sensor can go up to, I'm pretty sure, 16.5 stops of dynamic range, which is pretty insane. You're getting a lot more definition in the shadows and highlights, and getting just that more cinematic looking image, really.
Yeah. Well, my favorite thing about all your videos is that from a photographer's perspective, your color corrections are the best in the business.
I don't know about that.
well, in terms of people that I see in the music scene, I think your clips are beautiful because the colors that do you color correct yourself? Do you?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, it just seems vibrant and the cinematic. I don't know how else to describe it. And I'm assuming that's largely to do with the beautiful, the depth of the images from the red.
Yeah, it definitely does help having that sort of raw image with incredible sort of dynamic range and color bit depth. Having 12-bit color and the dynamic range, it all adds up and sort of does a job for me as long as I've exposed correctly and got it at the right ISO and lit it. Yeah.
So when it all comes down to it, does the gear matter that much? I know you used to film all your videos on an SLR.
What I've sort of been focusing on recently, and this sort of just, it ties into the question, is just focusing on narrative.
Yeah.
You can shoot a video on a DSLR and have an amazing narrative and a good song, and the video will be awesome and people will love it.
Yeah.
And you can go and have an amazing camera. You can shoot on the Red or the Alexa or whatever. And if the video doesn't have good composition, it's got a bad story, bad lighting, it's going to be a bad video.
Yeah.
So it's really up to whoever the director is, however they film it, however they light it. I could still shoot on a DSLR and create a great image.
Yeah.
Having the better camera certainly does help. I wouldn't be able to produce the same image, but
you can still work to a professional standard.
I could still do a professional clip on a 5D.
Yeah.
But yeah, just it does sort of open up a lot of options for you, being able to shoot high frame rates for slow motion and get that color information and dynamic range that is sort of not accessible in sort of the DSLRs. So yeah, it does help, but it should be focused just on story and lighting and composition. So
yeah. Well, I think I mentioned to you in the Facebook message that you were the first request. I actually had a listener, and it wasn't even a listener that was an existing friend. I had someone message me saying they love the show and asked if I can interview you. So
right.
You're doing something right, and people want to hear about you. So for someone getting into it, what sort of roots level, what sort of gear would they be looking at?
That's a good question.
So would you still go the DSLR route, or
I definitely think DSLRs are a good starting option, though. I think that if you have a little bit of the extra money, I mean, the A7S, the Sony A7S, costs the same as, say, like a 5D Mark III.
Yeah.
So if you're not interested in the still so much and you do want to focus on the video more so, go for the A7S, a sort of more video capable camera.
Yeah.
And get some sort of stabilization unit if it's not sort of like a shoulder rig or say like Steadicam or DJI Ronin. A lot of what makes a good video, I think, is shots that basically aren't shaky. If you can get a smooth flowing shot that looks cinematic, that's what will make you stand out more than people that have just bought that DSLR, are shooting your subject with handheld and you're getting that shaky image. If you have something to sort of stabilize the image, it's going to look 100 times better and make you stand out. So definitely getting something more like the A7S and a stabilization unit and just lighting stuff properly. That is what I would highly recommend. Just learning how to do 3-point lighting, and just going out and practicing. And yeah.
What's your training in all this stuff? How did you learn to light? Did you study? Did you have any tertiary education in this field?
No, I have had no education whatsoever. I've been all self-taught, and I wouldn't recommend one over the other if you're going to study or just learn yourself. Different people learn in different ways. I just decided to go out and shoot myself. I just landed in the video world out of nowhere. And after my first couple of jobs, I just started getting more work and started getting more videos. And it just it made more sense to just keep shooting and keep learning as the jobs go on.
Yeah.
I just found that I was learning incredibly fast, just going out and doing it and forcing yourself to learn by making the mistakes that you would inevitably do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I have made plenty of.
Yeah. I think that's the best way. You go out and shoot, and when you encounter a problem, you find the workaround, and that's how you learn, right?
Yeah, exactly. I've made countless mistakes, but I mean, I don't regret any of them because you just learn how to deal with them if they come over again, or you know how to plan so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming it's the same from a video perspective, but I feel like as photographers, half of our job is problem solving, because it's all well and good when everything goes to plan, but how often does that ever happen?
On a music video, I'm surprised if 5 things don't go wrong, honestly.
Yeah.
There's always someone to break something, someone that breaks, someone that cuts themselves open, or just heaps of things go wrong. And you just have to be ready for absolutely everything and anything on set.
Yeah. Cool, man. I want to get back to your sort of growth and rise within the scene, but I just was thinking before, when you were talking about stabilization,
yep,
what are you using for the Red? Because that's a big, heavy camera, and I'm almost assuming that the stabilizers that you would get for that cost as much as the camera.
No, stabilizers are actually pretty cheap.
Okay.
I have been using on all of my shoots the DJI Ronin, and that unit's $3,500, and in consideration to the price of the camera, it's 6% of the cost of the camera. So
right.
In the scheme of things, it's pretty cheap. Though still, with having the camera on the Ronin, it all weighs up to about, I don't know, like 15 plus kilos, and you're holding it outright. It puts a lot of strain on your arm. So I only hold the unit for about 2.5 minutes before I have to put it down. So there are limitations with sort of what you can do, and there are drawbacks with having sort of a heavy camera. And I've been using the Ronin, and it's been costing more money because I've also been getting another stabilization unit in conjunction with it called an easy rig. And it's basically a back brace that you put on that takes some of the weight off your arms and onto your back.
Yeah.
But with the two items, it ends up costing me, say, $250 a day to hire the two units. So when you start adding everything up, the budget can start depleting pretty quickly.
Sure. Yeah, because I've worked on a couple of Dylan Pierce's shoots, and I think he uses a similar rig to that. I know he's got the it's like he's strapped into it, and then there's like a thing that goes around above his head. And
that'll be the easy rig.
Okay, yeah, because from memory, I think he hires it all as well, and he was telling me that the stabilizers get really pricey, and he was saying he's got his beautiful glide cams and whatever, but he's not going to put the $50,000 red on the $1,500 Steadicam or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought
I wouldn't know if I trust it myself.
Yeah. All right, cool, man. Let's move it along a little bit. Have you had any pivotal moments, any relationships or chances that you've had that have really paved the way for you to go take the step up to the next level?
I have to give a little bit of a shout out to a really good mate of mine, Chris Elder.
Yeah.
He's another music video director from Sydney.
Okay.
And he was pretty much the first music video I released, Storm and Sky Giants. He hit me up when it was released and gave me sort of positive reviews, and sort of we got to talking, got to know each other, and now we're sort of going into business together.
Okay.
Now 3 years later, he started up a business called House Party.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been helping him with sort of getting it up and running. And it's basically we're trying to sort of get a different camera operator and teams in every single state in Australia, so that we can sort of be this sort of one house stop shop.
I love that.
So yeah, that's what we're currently working on right now. We did our first job together about a year ago. He passed on the Hellions penultimate year music video to me. So that was the first time we worked on a shoot together. And also recently we both collaborated in shooting the Unify Gathering Festival.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And we put out a little promotional video for that, a little teaser.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the business is sort of about to launch.
Yeah.
So you'll probably hear a lot of it in the next couple of months, but it's sort of still in the sort of early working days of, we've been working on it for actually a couple of years, but we're still sort of getting all the bits and pieces together to launch it properly. And yeah.
Excellent. That's really interesting, because I'm sure that you get clients, I'm sure you get inquiries on a daily basis almost, and life is too short. You just don't have time to spread amongst so many inquiries. Do you have to be a bit choosy with who you work with these days?
I am choosy with who I work with, though I like to give a lot of people a chance. And I mean, I do work with still bands that say, in the scheme of things, they might not have a great internet presence, but I'll love the song and want to work with them. So, I still do work with sort of the lower name bands, as long as I think that they're very dedicated, hardworking people that I know that will want the best out of the video as much as I would. So
okay.
There are also other times where larger bands will come to me and I will sort of have to take a little bit of a hit with my payment and the budget, just because I want to get more of a portfolio piece out there to start building up my name.
Of course.
But that's a whole another story, sort of budgets and bands and exposure and sizes and things like that.
Yeah. So realistically, the way that you're shooting now, being somewhat of a one-man band, shooting, directing, editing, mostly yourself.
Yep.
Realistically, how many clips can you do in a year or in a month, or how does it work?
Right now, realistically, I'm only doing about, if that, 1 month a clip.
Yep.
1 clip a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really trying to get more sort of jobs down, but it's hard to sort of lock decent jobs in that have the budgets that make it possible to sort of get the sort of quality of work out that I want to put my name to.
Sure.
So some bands will come to me and say, hey, we've got sort of a $2,000 budget, and I can't do it for sort of that cost, because, I mean, a lot of people say to me, like, I'll go, oh yeah, I'm doing this music video and it's a $4,000 budget. And they go, oh wow, like $4,000. But in the scheme of things, after I've hired a location, after I've put money in for camera hire, for lighting, for props, extras, generators, another driver and petrol, I only end up after $4,000 with like $3,000 has been eaten up already.
Sure.
And I might have had to have cut back on certain things, like we might not have been able to get the nice RE lights that would have been ideal for the shoot.
Yeah.
And I might have to get some dodgy, beaten up sort of Fresnels from your local lighting store, because there just wasn't enough budget in there.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm struggling with on one of the shoots that I'm filming soon. Like, it's a clip that I have decided to put all of the budget into, and it was a $3,500 clip, and currently the budget is all gone, and I'm currently not getting paid anything.
Right.
And there's still things that we need to get with props, and currently, if we want to get the extras in the clip, I have to try and source them for free.
Yep.
And like, there are certain lights that I can't get because they just aren't possible to be bought in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
And it should really be like $4,200 in the higher budget, and then I'm still not getting paid. And the band can't sort of afford to pay any more, but I've sort of taken this hit because I want to have this portfolio piece.
Yeah.
And it gets really hard, and people go, oh yeah, well, you're getting sort of like $4,000, you're killing it. But in reality, I'm not making that much. And then when you break up that I'm only making that $1,000 of that floor, and I'm doing 1 clip a month, that's still only $250 a week that I'm actually pocketing.
Yeah, not to mention multiple days for filming, plus I don't know how many days to edit, how many hours goes into that. I don't even know. That must just be ridiculous.
Yeah, I usually spend about at least a week in pre-production planning a clip, and I usually have a minimum of 2 days of filming. If it's narrative, it ends up being about 3 days.
Okay.
And then I'll edit for about 2 weeks, maybe a bit more.
Yeah.
So it ends up being about a month. And sometimes I do juggle 2 clips a month, or sometimes a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's not as good pay as people think, really. And people sort of just kind of like assume that, you enjoy your job, sort of, you're getting paid to do what you like. But I mean, I still have like bills that need to be paid, phone bills, rent, food.
Of course.
And it ends up being pretty much nothing at the end of the day, and have to keep just sort of pushing to make ends meet. And yeah, I've ended up basically making more money with my camera hires now than I do with actually filming, which is actually quite surprising.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, well, thank you for your honesty, because I know a lot of people like to skate around those sort of the less glamorous details. So I know a lot of people are going to get a lot of value out of this. So I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, no, all good. It should be out there. Like, people should sort of know, like, even, like, I know heaps of people that just, they might go on tour and they get told, okay, yeah, well, we can cover sort of flights and accommodation, and we'll sort of give you like $50 a day. And a lot of people go, oh yes, like that's awesome. I can sort of work for this awesome band and everything's paid for.
Yeah.
But say if you're away on that tour for 2 weeks or a month or however long, if you're living out of home, you're going to be losing money. You could be losing $300 a week after having to pay the rent that you would have had to, and whatever food on the road and things like that. So
mobile phone bills
get pretty
and all that.
hard. And yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I never even thought about that. Speaking of tour, is that ever something that you see yourself doing, or are you more of a production guy? I know you travel a bit for your shoots, but would you ever go on the road with a band the way you shoot?
I do much prefer shooting music videos. I love the whole planning and narrative and lighting aspect of it and being in control. But I would love to go on the road with a band, preferably international, and do a proper sort of documentary sort of DVD.
Yeah.
That is definitely on my bucket list to do that.
Okay.
But yeah, it is sort of difficult with what I was just saying before about having the sort of rent and things. It is something that you have to organize quite well and make sure it's for the right band, and that you're going to get the right content when you're away to sort of make it all work. But yeah, I'd definitely love to do something like that.
Yeah, excellent. One thing that just popped into my head that I forgot to ask before is how can you possibly keep finding locations for your video clips? Because if you've done this once a month for however many years, and I don't know about you, but the photo shoots that I do, the bands expect me to find the locations most of the time. And
yeah.
You know, if you're doing a shoot a week, a shoot every 2 weeks, like how do you keep coming up with new locations?
It is very, very hard, and it makes it easier when I do the interstate shoots.
Yeah.
A lot of it, like, 'cause I can use somewhere in another state, and it makes it a lot easier. But say I'm doing shoots in Melbourne, I have secretly double used locations in the past, and no one's really noticed.
Okay. Oh, actually, did you film in that abandoned house in Hyatt?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
You've called me out.
That's the only one I can think of, but only because I know both those bands. But obviously, you changed the set completely. You would never ever know.
Yeah. I always make sort of the house look different, or the shot types look different, or shoot it in a different editing style, or whatever, just to make it sort of less obvious. But it does get hard trying to find a new location for every shoot. Especially when bands go, all right, well, we want to be unique and we don't want to shoot, a warehouse or a forest or blah, blah, blah. We want to do something different. And it gets extremely hard when budgets are tight and you can't go and spend, say, $1,500 and get this extravagant location that is unique and no one else has used.
Yeah.
And then it also comes down to the factor that no one really sort of takes into consideration is noise restrictions, because you're playing loud drums, you're going to have to play back for everyone. So you're making a lot of noise. And it eliminates a lot of places. Even when I was shooting the Storm Sky recent music video for Same Graves, and I had hired a warehouse, and we had permission and everything, but it was just on the outskirts of the city. Yeah. And we still did have police come down to location and give us a cease and desist because they were getting complaints. So you still do get these sort of setbacks even when you have all permission granted. So
that's a nightmare, man. I did hear about that storm shoot. That's after hiring and trying to do everything right to still have it happen the way it did. That's I can't imagine how frustrating that is.
Yeah, it puts a little bit of stress on you, but we ended up shooting for another hour. We did a few little cheeky things to sort of illuminate sound. I don't want to say anything in case everyone goes and looks at the video.
Okay.
But we ended up getting rid of most of the playback issues to keep sound right down.
Okay.
And finished the shoot perfectly. So
Cool.
it all ended up well.
Excellent. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about your relationship with Storm. I know
Yep.
From my experiences, I know if you can get those upper level local bands, sort of all the smaller bands just fall into place under that. How did you start working with Storm the Sky, and what's that sort of done for your perception in the scene?
I have to say thank you to the Storm and Sky guys. They were the first people that gave me a chance with video. It's kind of a funny story. I was trying to sort of like be their band manager back in the day.
Yeah.
And really, really failed at it. I had a business called Get Behind Vic Bands.
Yeah.
And
Was that you?
Yeah, that was me. I was
on
trying to put
MySpace,
on
right?
shows. Yeah.
No way.
I was trying to put on shows for the local community and never really got anywhere. I sort of started putting these shows on this shitty nightclub in Footscray called Vedette, and it was horrible. I tried to get into work at the castle back in the day and couldn't. But so I was working with Storm and Sky, and I was hanging out with them jamming, and this was before even I Know a Ghost, when they didn't have a name.
Right.
And I would sort of go and mosh at all their shows and be that angsty teenager.
Yeah.
And they recorded their EP as I Know a Ghost, and they knew that I'd done sort of filming at school, and they asked me to do a music video for them. I forgot how it came into topic and conversation, but I ended up doing that for them, and it was a disaster.
Oh, really?
I really had no idea what I was doing, to be honest. I had hired lights, and actually they're the same sort of lights that I use on even shoots today.
Oh, yeah.
I was using the Canon XH-L&S just camcorder, and it took us like 4 nights to shoot that video, and that was just pretty much because I needed the time, because I didn't exactly know what I was doing.
Okay.
But I'm pretty happy with how the clip turned out for my first one that I'd ever done.
Sure.
And from there, the guy just kept me on. We ended up doing the live clip for Common Kings, and then I did their music video for Vigilance.
Yep.
And because of how well the guys had treated me, I just put my all into the video. And it's translated into me working with them on, I flew to America with them and did that DVD for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw that.
Recording in the studio. And then I also did their 2 most recent music videos for Portraits and Same Graves.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a pretty long relationship with me and them. It's been at least 4 years. So yeah, I just have to say thank you for the guys for giving me the chance.
What's the sorry to cut you off, Ed.
No, all good.
What's the time frame between this first clip that you did that took 4 nights and Vigilance?
The first clip in Vigilance, I think that was about a year.
No.
I think
1 year.
Yeah, I think it was 1 year. I'm pretty sure, because it went Giants to Vigilance, and then it took them about a year and a half until they released their album. And I did the 2 more recent clips, and yeah, it was in the space of about 3 years.
Wow.
So yeah. I mean, that's pretty much the only time I've been doing film work.
Yeah.
In the past 3 years, so it's all come on pretty quickly.
So which song was the first clip for?
Giants.
Is that still online? Can you still see that?
Yeah.
Because I'll have to look at that one, because when Vigilance came out, I remember that being just from a local person, like just the most professional band clip sort of around. So if that's at the time, if that's where you've come in a year, I haven't seen Giants yet, but I'm going to go watch it straight after this.
Yep.
That's a pretty quick. You've built up some chops pretty quick there, I think.
I'm just on YouTube now, and I can see that Giants was uploaded the 14th of January 2012.
Wow, that's so recently.
Yeah, so it's been like 3 and a bit years, 3 years, 4 months.
Yeah.
So if Giants was released 14th of January 2012, Vigilance was released, let me just see here, it was 26th of January 2013. It was pretty much exactly a year later.
Okay, excellent. So I'm going to link up both of those in the show notes at bigpants.com/podcast, and you can see.
You're going to ruin me. You're ruining me, PJ.
Okay, well, I'll make that. If you're listening to this, you can go and look them up yourself then, and just see. No, seriously though, like I haven't seen Giants, but if that's your first clip to Vigilance a year later, like I'm pretty impressed with that.
Thank you.
How many clips had you done between then for other bands?
I think that I've done approaching. It's between 20 and 30 clips I've done it so far, I think.
Okay. In between, so in that first year, how many?
In the first year?
Yeah, like with other bands, how many clips do you reckon you did?
In the first year from Giants, I didn't do that many. I probably only did about, I can probably actually name them. I did the Storm Sky Giants. I did Armor Us.
Yeah.
I did This Fiasco.
Sorry, yeah, go on.
I did Ocean Grove. And I think they're the only 4 that I did.
Okay, cool.
And maybe the Common Kings clip for Storm Sky, the live one, if you can count that.
The live one, yeah. I meant to ask you about the Armorous clip. Can you tell me a little bit about that day? Because I've got a shoot booked with the band who has come out of Armorous, and I remember hearing about you were filming in a bunker or a basement, was it?
Yeah. Basically, we were filming up in my holiday house, and the original plan was to film the whole music video in the snow. We got there, and just if the band wanted to set up, the amps would have been destroyed just in the slush that was snow. It was raining. It was just horrible weather, and we needed to get into somewhere with a roof over our heads to film the video.
Yeah.
We ended up still doing the narrative in the snow, but I ended up getting access to an underground bunker.
Yeah.
It was a fire escape for the town. And so we were filming in there, and this is one of the worst things I've ever done on a shoot, unintentionally.
Yeah, of course.
We had 3 generators powering the lights inside the bunker.
Yeah.
And 2 of them were petrol, 1 of them was gas. And during the shoot, towards the end, we just assumed that everyone was getting tired. And so, like, the vocalist had to have a sit down, and he just sort of trooped it on. He kept on doing take after take. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of the shoot, I was like, hold up, I could smell gas. And it turns out that the gas generator was leaking gas into the bunker, which is a very tight, enclosed space.
Right.
And it was gassing us. So I told everyone to get out. As soon as I smelt it, we went back to the house, which was only 100 meters down the road. As soon as we got out of the cars in the driveway, the vocalist, Mickey, collapsed in the driveway, and he started convulsing.
Oh, my God.
And we all sort of freaked out. And one of the guys remembered that he was asthmatic. So we got his pump out, and we're giving him pumps in the driveway. And we called up my dad, who was only a K down the road. He came racing up to the lodge, and we brought out a blanket and a pillow and put him down, tried to get him warm. We didn't put him down. And we ended up carrying him back into the lodge and put the fire on and tried to get him just as warm as possible and get some food into him. And it was really scary because he was wheezing. It sounded kind of like... Oh,
my God. It sounds like The Walking Dead.
We were just stressing out. And the only way to get him to a hospital was via helicopter. And it was 3 a.m. at night, and we didn't really know what to do. So we just stayed by him. We had someone stay by him the whole night, and everyone else went to sleep. Everyone else felt a bit lightheaded and a bit shaken. In the morning, he didn't remember anything. and he
Wow.
he didn't remember what happened, and he kept on apologizing to us, and he thought it was his fault. Just really good guy, and we kept on shooting in the morning, even though we told him to rest. He was just persistent to get the clip done. But
Yeah.
that's one of the more dramatic things that's happened on a film set for me.
That sounds like a bad dream.
Yeah, pretty much.
So where was the lodge? How far out of town was the lodge?
It was in Mount Borbor in a town called Cangelbran.
Okay.
That's about 2.5 hours out of Melbourne.
Okay, right. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's intense. That's like
Yeah.
you know how people, well, I don't know if they do, but in movies they like put the hose from the exhaust pipe into the window of the car.
Yep.
That's what that sounds like.
It was pretty much as bad as that.
Oh my goodness.
I've had some other things happen like that on set.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this on my film page, but on the Far West Battlefront clip that I did in Broken Hill, we had quite a large bonfire.
I did see those pictures.
And we weren't really anticipating how large the fire would grow. We'd used a bulldozer to sort of get all the dead trees and shrubbery from the area, and it was a massive, like 1-story high pile of debris.
Wow. Okay, yeah.
And the guys who owned the property had jet fuel, and they poured the jet fuel. They got up into the dozer with the jet fuel, poured it in, and then we had 2 trails that led to the big pile, and we lit both of the trails at the same time to ignite the pile. And it went up, and we played the song from the breakdown, and the whole pile just exploded. And within a minute, the fire got way too big, hot. It just became an inferno, and the band had to bail 60 seconds within it being lit. And as soon as the guys bailed, all the drums and amps were still set up, and we noticed that they'd started smoking.
Oh my God.
So we had to quickly grab everything out of the way, and so they wouldn't self-combust and burst into flames.
Yeah.
And I was stressing out because I was thinking, this is the best shot of the shoot. This is the climax of the song. And we had to stop filming halfway through. We can't even get another take. So we ended up like 10 minutes later, after the fire had burnt down a bit because it was all like shrubbery, we kept on filming, but just it did not look as good as the inferno that it was.
Yeah, of course. Did you at least get some good reactions on film?
I just was stopped filming. I had no idea what to do.
Sure.
But the take that we did get that is in the music video looks insane.
Excellent.
Because the fire in person was about 4 stories high.
Wow.
It was
sounds
probably
so dangerous, man.
It was, and we had no way to put it out.
So I'm assuming you're just like on someone's acreage, someone's farm or something?
Yeah. We were in the middle of nowhere in Broken Hill. It was just dust for miles. So, yeah.
Wow. That's a couple of good ones, man. That's a couple of near-death experiences on the set.
Yeah, quite a few.
Okay. I'm going to move along. I've only got a couple more, and I want to be very conscious of your time.
No. I'm happy to talk for however long.
Let's see what I got left. Obviously, over the last 6 to 12 months, maybe, it's been super hard to get your content out online in terms of marketing yourself as a business person. Yep. What can you do at the moment? Obviously, Facebook video ranks pretty well, but I don't know if the 720p kind of limit does what you do any justice. How do you go about showing everyone what you're up to, and what tips can you give someone for marketing on socials?
Honestly, this is probably one of my weak points. I am really bad at marketing myself. I've currently started building a website for myself to try and get sort more people coming to see myself and get Google hits that way.
Yeah.
And I've just put out my show reel,
Oh, yeah.
and I've been trying to sort of pump that as much as possible. But it gets hard when the only thing that you can really do is say put $10 on promoting it on your business page on Facebook.
Yeah.
And you do that once and you might post it once more again. I've posted it a month later on my personal page. I don't like spamming anything. I think that's sort of the worst thing you can really do.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Honestly, I've been pretty even slack with my business personal page. I'm looking at it now, and I only probably post an image every fortnight, a status.
Yeah.
And it's been something that I'm going to be looking at next month when I sort of get some downtime and focus on sort of working on a business plan and how to promote myself better. So I don't really have a good answer as to making sure that you do have a constant media stream just is going through. So don't look at my page for inspiration.
I think, though, what you're saying is what everyone's feeling at the moment. I know I've neglected my page, and I know a lot of people have, just because there's no real feedback that we get these days. It's
I think there is feedback, but I just find myself pushing social media stuff back and just sort of forgetting about it, really.
Yeah.
I feel like that if I do a shoot, sometimes the band don't want to actually post images and want to keep something secret until it actually gets released.
Sure.
So I can't actually hype anything or keep a steady stream of stuff going because it has to be kept on the wraps. So that makes it hard to update my own personal page and keep things interesting.
I know in the early days that was something that you were a bit of a master at, was making those little hype videos.
Yeah, I used to enjoy doing that.
Yeah, well, that was before anyone else was doing it. So can you just talk to that a little bit? Was it sort of like you would just use the clips that you have, and even like the audio was separate in the hype videos? They had like its own score or something. Can you talk about those a little bit?
Yeah. So pretty much I just included in my videos or charged like $100 to sort of make these little 20-second teaser videos for the music videos, say a week before they came out. And I used to go on either like the Music Bed or other sort of websites where you can get little bits and pieces of audio, like a cinematic horn, or even sometimes I'd get the band's song and I'd make it so it was playing at half speed, so it just sounded a bit eerie and didn't sound normal, and it was inaudible. Or I sort of cheat and do something a little bit illegal and say take a band that I like and sort of reverse their song and then half the speed, so it was inaudible and no one knew what it was, and it sounded just it fit the vibe of, say, the music videos I was working on, like say Ocean Grove.
Okay. Just put you on edge a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Obviously, there's been, since the last couple of years, North Lane have been really good at that. A lot of bands have been doing that sort of thing. Do you still get requests for that, or do you still budget for that? Or, like you said, do people like to keep it more of a secret now? Do the hype plans still work?
I haven't been asked to do any of them recently. And they have become very time consuming to do them well.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time I'm sort of busy working on different clips, and it's just extra time, and I don't really have to sort of put them together, and it's sort of, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's just a bit. I think everyone's just a bit immune to them these days. I think unless you're a big band, unless you're North Lane or in Heartswake or whatever that have these big elaborate campaigns, or even Plab had that really good, Prepared Like a Bride had that really good hype campaign for Overcomer. I think unless you've got a following, people don't sort of care anymore because they're just so used to it.
Yeah, Prepared Like a Bride. With what we did for them is we shot the music video, and originally the teaser video was actually meant to be part of the whole music video, or at least that was my plan for it.
Right.
It was meant to be one long clip, so the teaser went into the actual music video, and you can see if you watch the teaser, it has the same clip that has been cut that links into the start of the music video.
Okay.
So it is actually all linked together. It was meant to be one long clip, but it ended up being more beneficial to sort of release one as a teaser and the other one as a music video, because a lot of the time these days, it's hard to keep people's interest.
Yeah.
So if you release, say, a 5 music video, or if you dare release a 6-minute music video, it's hard to keep people's interest and have engaging content for that amount of time. So by cutting it short, say like 3 minutes 30 is a sort of a perfect length. You can have very engaging content, not sort of spacing the good content out within a long period of time. And it's more accessible to the public and gets more interest and views.
Okay.
So like the shorter the amount of the song, a lot of the time it's played more often, just because people go, oh, wow, and they watch it really quickly and then they want to watch it again.
Yeah, I think Ocean Grove's a good example of that.
Yeah, they're a great example.
So with editing your clips, how do you become the most productive version of yourself? What hours of the day do you work in? What tips or tricks have you found to make the most productive Ed Reiss?
I am very much so a night person. I cannot work during the day. I don't know why. I'm a lot more productive when it is nighttime. So I find myself working from about 8 p.m. till sometimes 4 a.m. I have a very off schedule working
arrangement.
Relationship, arrangement. Than normal people that do the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But I prefer it that way. The main reason I prefer it is just peace and quiet.
Okay.
I have no distractions. Most of the time people are asleep, so I can just do it, just play the music, chuck some headphones on, and just do a solid edit session and get a lot of it out. And there's also just the benefit of it being dark and being able to see an image more clearly, not getting sort of any glare from the screen or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. So obviously as a freelancer, your schedule, I would think, varies a lot week to week. What does a typical week look like? Or if not, what does an ideal week look like for you in terms of, your profession and your work?
But an ideal working week for me is pretty much, I would start with working on any sort of pre-planning for clips during the day. I will call up locations, scout props, contact extras and actors, and get all that out of the way and done during business hours.
Okay.
I will then go on to sort of editing my clips, music videos, whatever I'm doing, sort of after dinner pretty much, and do a solid, say, 6 hours of editing. And that'll be sort of like all the weekdays. And generally on weekends, I do film both days quite regularly.
Yeah.
So, between Monday to Friday, I will get up, organize clips, book in dates, book in hires, lighting, work out what I'm doing, nut it all out, edit for the night, and shoot on weekends.
Okay. Excellent, man.
Yeah.
Do you have any apps or gadgets or other pieces of tech that make your life easier?
Um, I do have well, Instagram for one is just great for business.
Yep.
Doesn't really count though. I do use an app called Red Tools for my Red camera.
Yep.
It sometimes helps. Like usually, everything that is in the app is actually in the camera.
Okay.
But say that I'm trying to work stuff out before shooting, and I go, all right, well, my card for the camera is 447 gigabyte, and I want to shoot this clip in 6K resolution. I can shoot for 83 minutes nonstop.
Oh, interesting.
And then I can go, all right, well, I'm going to do that for 40 minutes. And then for the rest of the card space, I've got 220 gigabyte left, and I want to shoot some 100 frame slow motion. I can work out how much time I can actually shoot for. So that is one app that can be helpful.
Yep.
In planning for my shoot, working out how long I can actually shoot for, and how the day will pan out, when I can plan the breaks in the day, the data angle, or anything like that. So yeah, that's sort of the one app that I do have that does become quite handy.
Okay, cool. Is that specific to your camera, or is that all the Red series?
It's all the Red, so you can basically select from the Red Scarlet, the Red Epic to the Red Epic Dragon, and soon they're releasing a new camera called the Red Weapon. So,
okay, that sounds good.
Which is going to get a bit of a buzz at the airports.
Yeah, I can imagine. Excuse me, sir. What have you got in your bag?
Yeah.
I don't know about the video community, but I'm sure there's a lot of crossover from the photographers and from the people that I know. What's it like? Are there any rivalries, competitions, camaraderie? That sounds so cheesy, but like, is it a pretty tight-knit group, or how does it work?
It's a pretty tight-knit group, and I'm mates with a heap of people in the creative industry, and we collaborate a lot. Like, I was just working on the Earth Caller shoot, and on set we had myself, Ben Anderson, Cal Rodriguez, Warwick Hughes, Ando, Daniel Anderson, and Joe Ritson, and I really hope I'm not forgetting anyone, but it was just like a huge like collaborative effort. Everyone's helping out on the shoot, and it's like that a lot. Like even at Unify gathering, like everyone in the media tent was just throwing down. We had a really good time. But there are certain cases where people will sort of come into the creative community that weren't sort of there before. And some of these people that sort of aren't friends with or don't know anyone can step on people's toes and sort of undercut or steal jobs. And it can get quite frustrating, for lack of a better word, when these people do sort of enter the ring. So, I mean, apart from those sort of people that come in, it's a very tight-knit community, and like even people that are my toughest competition, like say Jason Astrajan from Perth, I look up to him and admire his work, and like he has jobs that I would love to do, but like he is the most genuine dude ever, and I just love him to bits. I have nothing negative to say about him at all. He's just a downright good dude, and even though there is that competition, just in reality, like if he gets an awesome job, I am stoked for him. So yeah, there is like just that tight-knit community like that, when we all just work together, and yeah.
Do you find that if someone is like that and someone has that sort of genuine, very honest, very disarming personality, do you find that if you can meet them and find that connection, it just changes the game completely? Like maybe if you were to just see this guy's work, and is the guy you're talking about the one that did the I Am Zero film clip?
Yeah, he's done like I Am Zero. He did the recent North Lane Rock music video.
Okay.
He's done a couple for Buried in Verona. He's done a couple for Dream on Dreamer. So like he's got an awesome portfolio of work. And Yeah, and we worked together on the Dream on Dream and Never Love clip. I was doing B cam on that with him.
Oh yeah.
So and it was awesome to see sort of my shots in his video and being able to work together, even though we are completely separate businesses and entities in reality.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been, I mean, the only way I can relate is with photographers, and occasionally you'll be at a show or in a photo pit or whatever, and people sort of don't want to talk to you. And I find that if you can make the effort to establish connection, everything is good. But it's like, until you do that, for some reason, where we should be all lifting each other up, we're in this weird competitive battle. Does it feel like that with the video world as well?
I don't think it's that competitive. Like, we are all sort of not getting enough, but we're getting enough work to sort of be happy, and we're all growing.
Yeah.
And I mean, talking about the Unify gathering again, like when we were in the media tent, we were all just sort of growing down. I was meeting new people that I hadn't met before.
Yeah.
Like Harley, I think he's Harla Photography.
Harley from Brisbane?
Yeah, Harley from Brisbane.
Yeah.
And I should know his name because he's also part of House Party with myself and Chris Elder. I'm sorry, mate, I forgot your name. I bloody hung out with him in Melbourne for like 2 days. But we also broke down, and I'd met him for the first time at Unify, and it was just like an awesome experience. It's like being able to sort of meet these different people in the sort of business that we're doing together.
Yeah.
But you also do get those people that like won't come and talk to just your people at these festivals or at the local shows, and sort of purposely seclude themselves and don't choose to sort of be part of that community. They just sort of want to keep that business side to themselves and grow on their own. So
each to their own, I guess.
There's a bit of both happening. Like, there's that awesome community feel, and people also do their own thing.
So how do you manage to find the balance between a band's unrealistic expectations from what they've seen in a movie somewhere and the relatively very small budget that you have to work with?
It does get pretty difficult when you're working with low budgets and with bands constantly wanting a unique clip that will stand out from the crowd. With watching films these days, there's so much CGI and VFX involved and flashy effects that bands want to sort of have that same impression in their music videos and have the sort of same feature film sort of qualities in the music video.
Sure.
So I'll have a lot of bands that will come to me with a budget, and they'll state their intentions of what they want to happen. And a lot of the time, it will have to be cut back quite drastically to make it work.
Yeah.
I've had, say, one band in the past come to me and say, hey, like, we have this whole concept about wolves with our video, and we want to have one black and one white wolf. And we want to have them throughout the narrative of the music video.
Yeah.
And sort of like, they had like a $2,000 budget. This is like, say, 2 years ago when I was still starting out. So I just told them, like, for one, it's quite difficult to try and find these sort of one black and one white wolf, and to have sort of a dog trainer who would own them to come out to the set and for us to film them. It will be very expensive to do. And there's a lot of things like that just aren't possible. And you have to sort of dumb them down a little bit to make them work. And you can still produce amazing narratives and concepts, but with feature films and that, a lot of people have ideas in their heads that it's incredibly easy to do and cheap to do, and just readily available, when it's in reality not. Say a band will come to me and say, hey, we'd love to have these explosions and this fire behind us and whatnot, and just crazy VFX. We want these planes to be colliding, or I don't know. And you need, for one, someone who's skilled enough with VFX to do it, and probably a couple of $1,000s to pay them. And
just for the effects, right?
Just for the effects. And a lot of the time, the budget for the effects would be the budget they have for the whole clip. So yeah, it's not always possible, and I just have to manage sort of the expectations of what the band want and just the reality of it.
Yeah. I just thought of something just then. Have you ever had a situation where you've got too many people on set? Maybe it's the band's friends or girlfriends or managers or whatever, and everyone wants to have their own input. How do you balance that while still being polite and still keeping the mood up in the shoot?
It does get difficult. A lot of the time, they'll have friends on set, and they can be more of a detriment. So even if they're an extra, because one of the band members might be trying to impress a girl or anything like that, or they might have friends there and they might act differently to what they actually would do, and the shoot might not go as smoothly as planned.
Yep.
Or in other situations, I've had bands suggest an idea, but it's not till the day of the shoot.
Yeah.
And I haven't actually planned for it. So say one instance is a band wanted to throw around colored powder while playing the song in the music video, just throw it about.
Yeah.
And I just told them, like, look, I've organized to have the clip this sort of like grungy vibe, and doing this and the color grading that I'm going for, it'll look quite weird, and I haven't planned for it, and it just won't really suit the vision.
Sure.
And sometimes you have to like stand your ground and go, look, it won't suit the clip. And other times you just have to go, okay, yep, we'll do that. We'll see how it looks, but we'll also film it the way we had originally planned, just in case it doesn't work. And I mean, it's always good to have that extra set of footage, and it can end up making the clip better. But yeah, it does get difficult when people are throwing around inputs on the day of the shoot, or that when it's not actually planned.
Do you ever impose any restriction? Sounds like a harsh word to use, but do you ever have any restrictions with who they can bring along onto a set?
I haven't had too much of a problem with people having bringing people to set. I'm pretty just everything on set's pretty laid back.
Yeah.
And people usually just chill out, and no one ends up sort of putting too many ideas forward, or
okay.
Making too much of a conflict or whatever. And also, the only other thing that I sort of have as a restriction with bands is clothing, really. And I always tell the bands sort of wear like dull muted colors. Otherwise, there's not really any other restrictions on set. I always just tell the bands not really to bring anyone, but it's always good to have that extra help of hands on set if people are willing to sort of move lights around, help with the generator, or anything like that. So yeah,
sure.
I never sort of turn people away, but the less people on set, the less clutter there is, the easier it is to film.
Yeah, of course. So do you have a bit of a say in terms of the styling and such as well? Is that pretty important to the clip?
Yeah, like I never like to have sort of bands to wear logos or anything like that. Or say, like, I've had bands in the past say, like, oh, we're endorsed by so-and-so. Like, we really need to wear their T-shirt. And I just go, look, it looks tacky. Like, people will know that you're endorsed, and it never looks good.
Does it sort of really date the clip as well?
Yeah, it does. It does date the clip. And, like, say that they're endorsed by sort of a clothing brand or a guitar company or something, and yeah, it does date the clip. It does make it look tacky, and it's an overall better vibe is just to have it focused on the music and the video and the cinematography than going, oh, look, they're wearing so-and-so. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of locations, we touched on them a little bit before. Have you ever had or do you have many sort of like illegal or difficult things? You don't have to go into any sort of detail, but I know sometimes just on the topic of expectations, bands think they can just get in, get it done quickly and get out, but it doesn't really work like that.
There have been many instances where we've sort of just been filming on the fly and flying somewhere that we shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
Let it be an abandoned house, abandoned warehouse, or we're doing something that's slightly illegal, like lighting up a flare, starting a fire,
yeah,
smashing TVs, or anything like that, anything for the sake of film. And like we have run into the police, and in one shoot we had a smoke machine going off in an abandoned house, and we had the fire brigade come.
Oh my goodness.
And I just remember being mid shot in the narrative, and both me and the actor just heard the sirens, and we both looked up at each other, and we didn't say anything, and we just stopped there and listened. And then they got louder and stopped right at the front of the house, and we both just turned the smoke machine off instantly, got outside. I was holding my camera so that like the first thing they saw would be like me holding a camera.
Okay, that's good.
And so it was the fire brigade, and the music video was for Ocean Grove, and I had the actor there, crazy guy with the beard, awesome guy, Tom. The first thing he said when we got to the fire brigade, like was standing beside us, he was like, "Oh, are you looking for my smoking hot sister?" And the fire brigade just like didn't sort of like that at all, and they had a pretty stern face, and they took my details down, and sort of nothing ever happened of it. I've given either the fire brigade or the police like my details a good like 3 or 4 times at least.
Okay.
And I've never got a fine, never got a letter in the mail, and yeah, it's frowned upon, but I mean you'd be pretty unlucky to sort of have anything happen.
Yeah.
Usually people are pretty good about you filming or taking photos and are pretty understanding. So,
are there any instances where you've had any sort of grief on the day? You mentioned you haven't got any fines, but have you been shut down or anything?
We have been given like cease and desist, like I said with Storm of Sky.
Yeah.
But I always tend to just scrape together to make it work with either like taping cymbals on drums or just turning the audio down. We had one instance where we were filming under a freeway, and
right.
We got shut down by police. They were actually really friendly about it. They went up to the highway and said, "Oh yeah, turn it down, we'll see how it sounds." And it all ended up being fine. They came back and said, "Yeah, cool. Like you can keep going, but if we get another complaint, we will come back and we will have to fine you." And they never came back, so
okay, good.
It all ended up being sweet. But like also on the topic of sort of like locations, sometimes like you get just sort of certain places that you are filming it free because tight budgets and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it'll rain or it'll be the worst weather ever. You're hoping for a sunny day and it's just black and clouds. And you have to reschedule shoots. And just stuff can go wrong like that. More stuff has gone wrong with, say, weather than really with authorities.
Okay.
So really that's one of the main things that I have to think about when doing a music video.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the main thing you can't control.
Yeah, it's pretty much one of the only things that I have no control over. And when you do want to have this, say, unique video and shooting in a certain location and you have one day to film when, say, that the band's from interstate or you've flown there to them and you're on a tight deadline, but the weather's horrible, sometimes you have to make do and just keep shooting and hope for the best and sort of change the look and feel of the video to suit what your situations you have presented. So
yeah, coming from a photographer's perspective, do you ever have to almost play psychologist or like a counselor on a shoot? And I know in the past it's not like something has gone drastically wrong, but people just won't be happy with how it's going because their expectations are so high. I know that at the end, once they see the final product, they'll be happy. But do you have to deal with that? Do you have to deal with keeping people's perceptions of the shoot high?
Yeah, I just do that all the time. I always sort of egg on whoever I'm filming and go, like, fuck, that looked awesome. Like, do that again. You're doing that perfectly.
Yeah.
And it does boost energies and sort of re-stimulates them to sort of get back in the game and look the part and pull whatever sort of mood that has to represent a clip. And a lot of the time I do have to do that whole psychological thing and reassure the band or the client, hey, like, it's shit weather, but look at this. Like, and I'll show them playback on the monitor and like show them how awesome it looks. And
yeah.
It does reinstall faith. But like you said, you do have to wait till they actually see that sort of end product before they're like, oh, cool. Yeah, like that is cool.
Yeah. How do you deal with, as politely as possible, how do you deal with someone who can't play their part?
It does get very difficult when that happens. And a lot of the time that will happen most if, without putting it more politely, if they just kind of look corny or they can't move properly.
Yep.
And I'll have to compensate, say, with camera movement or something to make them look more energetic or things like that. And most of the time it's fine. And like I will try and direct people as best as I can. And even when people are doing a good job, I try and make them go better. And I'll shout out like, or while I'm filming mid-take, I'll go angry or like just fucking go for it and try and get the most out of them and tell them to move more. And and it does motivate people and gets a better end result. So
excellent. Well, that's all I've got for you tonight. The last thing I want to ask is, where can we send people to connect with you or find your work, suss you out?
The best place to find my work will be at edreissfilm.com.
Yep.
It has my show reel and contact details. It's a pretty simple page, but you can sort of see my work and get the general feel of what I do.
Yeah. Where are you most active on the socials if people want to contact you there?
Just like anyone, Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
Active on both of them quite frequently. If not, just my email. Yeah.
Excellent, man. Well, thank you so much for your time tonight. You've been extremely generous with what you've shared. You've been very honest, which I appreciate so much. And yeah, you've been the first person that's been requested for me. So thank you
to whoever requested me.
It was Jackson. Let's give Jackson a big
thank you, Jackson.
Shout out. I can't remember his last name, but he requested you. So I appreciate that, because if someone makes a request, then it means I can use that to get the person on, because yeah, how can you say no?
Exactly.
Excellent, man. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
We might have to do an update sometime in the future when the business is launched.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Fantastic. And we'll see what you're up to then. And so I'll link up all the details, spelling of the websites and etc. in the show notes. You can find that at bigpantsphoto.com/podcast. And that's it. Thanks so much, Ed. I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Good talking.
Right. Take care, buddy. Bye. If you can hear my voice right now, thank you so much, because you made it all the way until the end. This was another pretty long episode, but again, it was unintentional. It's just that the conversation was so good. How could I stop it? I would love to give a big shout out to Jackson Webster on Facebook for requesting I have Ed on the show. If you guys request someone, it means I can use that to get them on the show. So yeah, if there's anyone you would like to hear, or if there's anyone you can introduce me to that you think would be a good fit for the show, I would love to get that intro. As always, the show notes can be found at bigpantsphoto.com/podcast. As I've mentioned before, I also have a free ebook available on my website. It outlines exactly the gear you need to take killer band promos. If you're liking the show so far and would like to give something back, it would really help me out if you left me an honest review, hopefully a good one, on the iTunes store. That helps get the show ranked and get it into the ears of people who could use this sort of content. Thanks again for listening. I hope you have a killer week of shooting, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.